And we're live on a Friday night, everybody. How are you doing this evening? My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a flawed man of God, and this is my channel. And tonight we try to do things kind of easy, right? Tonight's a Friday night, it's a chill stream, it's easy going, and I did not give the subscribers a heads up that on what time I was going to be streaming. So I'm going to try to wing it for a few minutes and see if anybody shows up. And if they do, that's great. If not, we'll see where it goes. How's it going? My name is, like I said, Stuart Davis, flawed man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What this is a community for Christianity, for people who are seeking Christ or people who are already Christians, just looking for a community where they can gather. Very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a small group Sunday or a Sunday school. And so this is where we gather. And normally I have a bigger intro on this, but it's Friday night. It's a relaxing time for us. And this is Friday nights is when we choose to talk about discussions that aren't necessarily biblically centered or Christian centered. We just kind of talk about whatever. How's your week been going? How are you doing? Because that's part of that fellowship that you have to have outside of studying the Word. And I don't really have anything off the top of my head to start off and kind of group in to while the chat filters in or doesn't filter in. It's been kind of a quiet week. For streaming. Had a meeting on Tuesday that got in the way. It was a good meeting. And then I had sick kids Wednesday. And then and then we streamed Thursday and coming in tonight. So that's good. But other than that, it's been pretty good. We've been covering First Samuel, which is mostly centered around Israel choosing a king, even though God says you shouldn't be asking for one. Their first king, and now issues going on with that rule. Nico, welcome to the chat. I saw that you were asking in Discord where the stream was. Glad you guys are being flexible on this because we do family movie nights Friday nights. It does make this a little bit more difficult to set up because number one, I would have to do it a few hours beforehand. I would have to be able to guess how long the movie's going to be because sometimes we don't pick the movie ahead of time. Sometimes we pick it in the moment, and also how long it's going to get to take the kids to settle down and go to bed, tuck them in, say goodnight. Sometimes they're up here. Tonight I am kid-free in the man cave. It is family night. We did the Scooby-Doo movie, the live-action movie from 2002. Nico, I don't know how old you are or if you'd even ever been born at that point, but actually 2002 is a special year. It's the year me and my wife first met. And so that was great. And we enjoyed it because she's my wife specifically is a porn in the chat block user. There we go. Yeah, okay, so I was gonna say, my wife is a big Freddie Prinze Jr. Freddie Prinze Jr. fan. That was a actor that she really enjoyed watching movies about when he was deemed you, and she was also a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. So, that was cool, and so we got to watch that. But yeah, Blaine, the one with Velma, and how she just like one moment she's in her traditional sweater, and the next moment she's in this like super low cut shirt, and her tits are hanging out. Yeah, Velma was very attractive. I could not put my could not identify her. But it was weird because all of those actors in that movie, except for her, because it seems like she kind of did some more acting afterwards. All of them were kind of A-listers. The guy who played Shaggy, I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. He was kind of a B-lister, but he'd been in Scream. He'd been in a couple of other movies around the late 90s, early 2000s. And Freddie Prinze Jr. was probably the height of his career at that point, and Sarah Michelle Gellar was probably the biggest star out of all of them, and they all kind of that was like kind of the beginning of the end of the era for them, and you don't really hear much about them anymore. But apparently, they are Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar got married. I guess I don't know. I guess they're still married. I don't know. Anyway, it's a fun movie. My kids really love Scooby Doo, especially my daughter. So seeing the movie, they like the original cartoon series, like the old Hanna Barbera '70s, uh, uh, the old '70s cartoon. She really enjoys those. We put them in for her when we're on road trips, and it really excites her. It really excites her. So it's good. She had a great time watching it. I thought it was kind of funny. It was kind of a very good blast to the past, back to the times where I didn't know it was so late, and I thought it was a 1999 or a 2000 movie. I did not know it was 2002. So Nico says, I saw the 2002 Scooby Doo movie. It was a fun one, and when Velva was still sexy. The problem with, and I don't know if we talked about this, um, before, with what they're trying to do with Velma now and HBO is kind of stupid, because Velma's kind of the geeky, dorky gal in the cartoons, and then HBO is like, we're going to do a series where she's it's an actual horror series instead of kind of a comedy, and she's going to be gay. She's going to be a lesbian, and I know that there was some comics that kind of alluded to that as well. But all that does is fall into that stupid trope that that people that are trying to push in society today, that if you are an outsider, if you're nerdy or whatever, if you have trouble socializing, it's probably because you're gay, which is such a dumb thing to do. But that's the social engineering that we're exposed to these days. It's kind of silly. Um, Blaine says, I really hated the ending of the live action. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that they made Scrappy out to be a villain, but I thought that Scrappy, because they made a sequel to that in 2004, which we'll probably end up watching at some point. But that would have been a great addition to a sequel, and be like, have Scrappy doing the next one. But that was a very 2002, very late 90s, early 2000s ending style. I don't even remember the ending. Was it like real Mr. Bean was trapped and it's something like that? Yeah, yeah, Nico. That was the other cool thing, that Mr. Bean popped up. This is the funny thing. Wife's a big Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar fan. Like I said, she'd never seen the movie before. So and she's also loves Mr. Bean. So he pops out. And she's like, wow, this is great. Yeah. Um, Nico's Blaine says, "Are you ugly? Must be gay." Nico, "Oh, are you probably definitely internet gay if you are a loser in high school." I was a loser in high school. Hung out with losers in high school. Didn't have many friends in high school. But all the losers that quote unquote losers and geeks, I ran into one of them actually. He was a year ahead of me. He joined the army the year before I did, and he he's a deputy and married with a kid and doing well for himself. Another friend of mine at that time also married, right? Also married, and his mom actually goes to church with me, and we taught until we got a new youth minister. We were teaching the middle schoolers in Sunday school. No, not still a loser. Um, not in that not aspect. Not in that aspect. Need to get him going to church. That'll be good. But that was the thing, the kids that people looked over and didn't pay any attention to, or thought were just weird because they were awkward, because that's what you are at that age. Um, doesn't mean we've got sexual deviancies in that regard. But that's what they want to promote, because that's supposed to be the outside outlier, oppressed group that's also trendy. It's a very weird thing in my eyes. That's what they decide to do. So, but that's definitely not going on in the Scooby Doo 2002 movie. And like I said, she is a hottie, but very well cast. I thought it was very well cast, and it's not a movie. It's not an award winning movie, but it's a fun movie to watch with the kids, especially around Halloween. So, Blaine, I know you've got Trunk or Treat going on. What are you doing for Trunk or Treat? Are y'all decorating? What kind of car is it that you're decorating, and how are you decorating it? We're kind of phoning it in this year. So our Trunk or Treat is going to be on Monday, and our Trunk or Treat is going to be Monday on Halloween, and we had some lights and some kind of hocusy pocusy stuff, but that it looks like it got hung up in transit in shipment from the Hong Kongs, and then we're just gonna do some spider web stuff, some giant spiders and spooky stuff like that. So we're really not doing what we've done in the past. We've done some pretty elaborate ones. I've been a lumberjack, and we had pieces of wood over there. I had an actual functional chainsaw with the chain off of it. And like I said, we did a ring one year. When I was Macho Man, my son was Ric Flair, and my wife was a referee. I did not strike her. Neither did my son. We didn't knock out the referee. So Blaine said, or Nico says, that's the only perspective you have when you graduate from shit like CalArts. Blaine says, using the 2015 Tahoe for maximizing real estate, you always want to we got the minivan out for the same reason. You want a lot of room, you want a hatch usually that lifts up. So that's what I agree with. Peter Pan themed with hook ring toss, and my wife has circuit cut, cricut cut, and an amazing background, has done something with an amazing background. Well, that's good. And it's fun too, because the kids come up and you see them and they're always excited. And we have a lot of it's like this neighborhood kids come around, and I eat candy while I give them candy. Nico says, does this count as a Halloween stream? Can we talk ghost stories? Sure. Do you have any ghost stories, Nico? Do you live in any haunted place? Oh, okay. Okay. Crafting CNC essentially. I don't know what the CNC means. I might if you let I might once you tell me, but it's drawn a blank. Do you know what a horror story going on right now for a lot of people is that Twitter's been bought by the boogeyman Elon Musk. Oh, hoping I have some stories. Um, let's see. I mean, I've definitely kind of so computer numerical control. Now I'm really lost. How do you Oh, so basically so that you like just draw it on a computer and it basically put it on a larger surface plane? Okay. Oh, that is cool. Okay. Picture a tiny machine for cutting out any okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that in action. I would probably you look it up on YouTube. I got a copyright notice from a couple of streams ago. Copyright notice from a couple of streams ago was about the when you and I were talking about large guys who can run fast, and I was showing you the Patrick Willis footage. Um, apparently, somebody noticed that I would put something up there that was theirs, or that they thought was theirs. I don't know. Don't care. It wasn't a copyright strike. Also, welcome, popular mechanic, or pop. I'm sorry, pop culture mechanic. So yeah, um, things got kind of scary in San Francisco today. And I'm not talking about people getting attacked. I'm talking about literally shaking over Elon basically bringing Twitter back into its whatever state it's going to be in going forward. And there's a lot of people out there making a lot of assumptions on both sides, right? And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm keep talking about God, keep trying to look out and just be out there and looking for interesting people to bring on. And I have been a little bit lax in bringing on folks. I did have Blaine on here last week, but that was for a chill stream, not for an actual topic. Um, and I have been a little remiss in bringing people like Remy Shepard on, other Paul. These are guys that I've talked about. No Jesuit tricks, bringing him on. These are all people who have agreed to come on. I need to bring Hans Feeney back on here to talk about Sola Scriptura, Sola Fide. Um, and so I need to get better about that. But that's what I do. That's really what my Twitter presence exists for. Now I find just looking out, talking about God a little bit, well, that's kind of what I do while I'm there. But my what I've signed up for is to look for interesting people out there, promote the stream. That kind of went by the wayside because I don't think I get anybody comes in that way. Um, and there we go. Yeah, did I come up with that idea first though, Blaine? The Fun Time Friday format? I feel like I've been doing it for a few weeks now. I saw that he's doing it, which is great. Which is great because I think that's what we need. You need a day out of just kind of chilling out. chilling out. Not literally shaking. Talk about the failures of the church and the human weakness in the heavenly organization. It's great clickbait title and interesting topic. Um, isn't that kind of what we find throughout the Bible, though, Nernath? So, but Nico, to what you were talking about earlier. So, I live on a where I live in Central Virginia, in the outskirts of Richmond. There's a lot of Civil War. There was a lot of Civil War activity in and around this area. I grew up on a campsite for the 7 Days battle. I live currently on what was a Union artillery line during the Battle of Bethesda Church, Beulah Church, Bethesda Church. Now I'm having an issue. Look. I'm checking out right now, so I can't remember the battle. A lot of activity happened specifically around here. So a lot of dead people in this area, and so you feel like there's a lot of spooky stuff. So, Nernea said, "Are there any ancient Indian burial grounds?" No, that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's some out here. We have the Mattaponi Indian tribe. We have a place on the other side of Richmond, which is Powhatan. That's part. There's a Indian tribe out there. There's obviously Jamestown, which is the first real successful permanent settlement that they made, that the Brits made, which is where my family actually came to America. My family goes all the way back on my mom's side to Jamestown, because it was a very big deal for my grandmother that she got into the Jamestown Society. However, apparently, in order to trace the genealogy back, she had to make an admittance that there was some extramarital activity that our genealogy popped out of. So, but that's what. So the Indian presence really isn't huge out here, but it's definitely there. It's definitely there. Blackfoot tribe, I think, is out here too. I'm trying to remember. Here's a thought on Twitter. Elon may turn add-on to Twitter a better video platform, making it the next YouTube killer. Imagine YouTube with free speech and much better reach. Perhaps. We'll see. Right now, this past week, I've been getting error messages on my StreamYards that I'm not streaming to Twitter. So, Black feet. Pop culture mechanic. Did they copy you, Blaine? And congrats on 20 weeks. Also, what? 20 weeks? 20 weeks of streaming, Blaine? Congratulations, all in order. Anyway, Blaine, you've got a great channel. You've got a great presence on your channel, and good for you. No matter how long you end up on YouTube, what you're putting out there seems pretty cool. Nika says, have you been in a ghost encounter, though? I feel like I've been around it. Actually seeing a visible ghost, no. But hearing things and noticing things, yeah. Yeah. And it's dead. Look, all right, where I grew up, it's a lot of farmland and a lot of woods, right? And one of my favorite shows growing up was the X-Files when I was and or we would watch as a family, we would watch Unsolved Mysteries, which to this day has one of the creepiest opening intro songs that ever existed. Um, and so we would watch those no more normally at night. Had a wood stove, so especially in the winter, Dad would say, "Look, you need to go out and go get some firewood." So the firewood was was about 100 yards out, from the house, out of sight because of um, how it was positioned, right there in the tree line, right there on the tree line. And so you'd go out there and look, it is those the whole time you're doing the whistle, you're doing the singing to yourself, you're looking around everywhere, you're picking up the logs and you're putting it in a wheelbarrow or whatever, and then you're just hustling back and the whole time looking behind you, just waiting for something to happen. But you know, but most of the time it's usually when, there's usually you hear noises, voices, nobody's around, door opens and closes. That's actually happened more. My wife actually has better stories a lot regarding that. Um, and it happened at the house that she grew up in. But uh, the family rents that house out now, and we haven't gotten any complaints that the house has been causing any problems for the current tenants. So Blaine said, "Thanks. Need to make a plan for when the food trailer launches. I want to be the late night serving food chef guy, so I need to find a new schedule balance." That probably puts you mid afternoon, then I would say, depending on the setup and everything. How late are you planning on or do you think you'll be open? And I know you probably don't know exactly how it's going to be, but you're going to have to play it by ear. But what's your initial plan as your operating hours? I love unexplained mysteries. You mean unsolved mysteries? The show, not unexplained mysteries. Our local comedy group Almost Live did an unexplained mysteries of Seattle, and it was amazing. And there you go. But yeah, there's a lot of spooky stuff out in this area. I don't know really what is um, out there in the out west, Nico, near where you live, or out in Pacific Northwest where you live, Blaine. I don't know how much hauntings there are, or what would be a haunting. Obviously, it's kind of built in around here. Um, a lot of early early history, U.S. history is here. Civil War, obviously, lot of battles, a lot of bodies, lots of fighting, a lot of violence. So, plus Bigfoot. Are you a Bigfoot believer? Blaine says we have tons of hauntings. Oh, okay. Most of the breweries close around 11, so that was the current close estimate. I like going to a brewery and I don't, um, I like going to a brewery. I don't like beer, but I like eating. I like, I like a food truck. I like going places that have good things to eat. So Nika says, so I guess you do believe in ghosts and stuff. Oh yeah. No, what I think they are, no idea. No idea, but I do believe in very strongly in a paranormal. Um, Nico, what's Christianity perspective on ghosts? Haven't seen ghosts in the Bible so far. Is it different from spirits? Um, it depends on who you ask. Certain people and Christianity do not believe in ghosts. Many Christians do. Many Christians do. Um, and one of the easiest ways to talk about it is to talk about false gods that are worshipped, false gods that are worshipped, and demon possession, possessed men. When we talk about the phrase "I am Legion" comes from a man who was possessed by many demons that Christ ends up casting out. So if that stuff happens, right? It's not unheard. It's the idea that ghosts exist or some sort of spirit exists in a capacity is certainly within the realm of possibility. In fact, and I missed the boat, there's a guy who there's a mutual of mine, um, Operation Saint Cyprian, I think his name is. He's come on the other Paul. He's streamed with me on the other Paul's show. He apparently does stuff with the paranormal. Eric Rollon is working on stuff surrounding the paranormal, and yeah, so I need to get him on to talk about it because I think I need somebody who's way more into that than I am. Unexplained Mysteries is the 2003 version of Unsolved Mysteries. Oh, okay. Pop Culture Mechanics says, don't forget Ogopogo, and Lake Okanogan. I think let me know if I said those right. Blaine says, I believe in most cryptozoology the way that people see weird weird animals like Wendigo or deer with wasting sickness. Or maybe not. Unexplained is all, or maybe not unexplained is all paranormal. Yeah. There's definitely, it seems like some extra dimensional activity on Earth. And if you talk to people, so Nico, and here's the other thing. Now, I didn't grow up in these circles, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge. But if you talk to people who have dabbled significantly in the occult and rituals, um, with a little bit of black magic involved or so much, some of them have some wild stories to tell, and it works a lot like the scared straight. It has the scared straight effect. They experienced something so deeply concerning to them that they became Christians after a bit. I had a boss. He came to Christ specifically because he experienced something doing some crap with some friends that he thought was cool. They thought they were going to do some amateur summoning or something like that, and he saw some shit. Pop Culture Mechanics says it's the Canadian version of the Loch Ness monster. Blaine says, I think the issue Christians have issues with is the idea of ghosts of dead relatives, but we have time when Jesus had a chat with Moses. We have the time when Jesus had a chat with Moses and Elijah, right? Of course, that's Christ walking the earth is a kind of a unique time in Earth history. But again, yeah, there are accounts. There are accounts in the Old Testament of divination, of tarot cards, and stuff like that. Magic is banned in the Bible for a reason. If this stuff didn't exist, it wouldn't be looked at as evil. It might be looked at as stupid or unfaithful, but there's definitely a sinister vibe behind it. Now, do not suffer the witch to live, right? and stuff like that. Nika said, I guess wisdom really does start with fear. It can. Fear is oftentimes a motivator for you to learn a lesson. Kanye, he was banned from Magic too. Wait, was that Yu-Gi-Oh? Wasn't that Yagio? Yu-Gi-Oh? Blaine says, what about casting lots? Is it just that God chooses if the coin goes heads or tails? You'll have to ask the Presbyterians about that and the Calvinists. Find out what they think in that regard. I still think, though, I believe much more heavily that God has plays an active role in a lot of the things that go on in our day-to-day lives than we care to admit or may recognize. I do believe that God in some ways casts the dice with humanity, letting free will kind of letting us land where we will in some cases. He already knows the outcome because he's omniscient, so he already knows. But as far as the choices we make in life are oftentimes are of our own choosing. So, not always. It does. There are examples in the Bible where God kind of heavily influences or outright directs people to do things. So, I'm much more of a free will Christian. And Einstein said God doesn't play dice. Funny he used that expression. Einstein wasn't a Christian either. He just said Einstein's whole idea was that there's more that there's a much better chance that there's a God than that there isn't a God. So Einstein was involved in the Manhattan Project, which gave us the atomic bomb, which in turn gave us anime, which is evil. And for degenerates. So there's that. It was interesting. I saw something somebody that a lot of people follow on Twitter, and he doesn't. This is not a guy who says like over the top stupid things, but he posted a or histrionic things. I shouldn't say stupid. I mean that's just me being casual about it. But he says he posted a meme or a picture talking about how free will is pagan worship. The belief in free will is pagan worship. And it's always stupid and tiresome how so many Calvinists, generally Calvinist pastors, not your regular run of the mill Calvinist, they're not really like this. But so many of the pastors that get so mad that other people aren't reformed, and they think it's evil, not really recognizing that it doesn't seem to be that doesn't seem to really pop up until 15th century. So Blaine says a lot of Einstein's best quotes come from wrapping his head around the idea of random occurring on the subatomic level. Now that I believe that God is heavily influencing it. Yeah. Took a nap today after work. Wrapped up work. Took a bit of a nap. Ate dinner. Watched movies with the kids. Don't know why I'm tired. Nika says, "Yeah, tell Matt Walsh that." Well, therefore, anime was God's will. I don't take Matt Walsh that seriously. I don't look to Matt Walsh for any type of spiritual insight. I think he has done a good job with the bringing light to the transgender issues, but he is not a spiritual leader in any sense of the word. I just I don't find that I don't find him uniquely inspiring. People I find uniquely inspiring are oftentimes more simple folks or more clever. Um, so much of what Matt does is let other people kind of make fun of themselves, which a lot of us can do. Any one of us can go out there and do it. He's just got a great platform to do it. But Hans Feeney, like I said, you hear me talk about it. He's kind of the guy that I always, I look at, I go, very much, we're on the same wavelength on things. Listening to what he says, he breaks things down in a way that I understand. He's Lutheran. I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with a lot of what he says and how he says it, and what he says about discourse, and what he says about, you know, how we view Christianity, our fellow Christians, interacting with them, interacting with unbelievers in different settings, the state of the world. He's a guy that I find insightful in many ways. The guy I want to come on, No Jesuit Tricks, another guy, Anglican, and he is. But you listen to him talk, very easy speech, um, just he's a Southern boy through and through, and so I can really identify with him and some of the things he talks about, because he talks about things from a perspective that my dad came from, and so listening to him talk about his youth is a lot like listening to my dad talk about his own youth, and just very interesting. And he again, he doesn't really brook quarter on people fooling around with the Word of God, but he does it in a way that is um, I don't know, mild yet assertive, right? And probably the best person who does that, and he's another guy that I think is insightful, Thaddeus Patrick, who has been on this show before, from talking about orthodoxy. He is not at all like the Theo Bros you will run into online, um, that are representing orthodoxy. Many of them aren't actually orthodox, but the way soft spoken but firm about what, and not afraid to correct somebody. But he does it in a very diplomatic way, and I don't mean diplomatic in a fake political way, but with an earnest. I care about you. I want to have an honest discussion with you, and I'm going to be honest about what I feel with. And his road involves 10 years ago struggling with gender dysphoria, and coming out on and and never admitting, not never admitting, never falling for the idea um, that it wasn't that it was okay, and ultimately overcoming it through God or whatever. But the Orthodox denomination really helped him through that, I believe. And that makes him uniquely qualified to speak to a lot of people. And he does it, and all three of these guys can do it better than I can. So much I feel like I'm just a hammer when I talk to people. I'm not as big of a hammer as some people. Some people are downright rude, and I can be at times. I'm just a little bit more blunt. I'm a little less. I don't have the finesse as much naturally. But that's the thing. You have to do it naturally. You have to talk naturally. You have to speak your mind naturally. You can't fake your way through a conversation. It is so dishonest. And a person who is honestly seeking an answer will will many times see right through it. And you don't want to be the person to convince somebody that it's all a sham because you were pretending. So Blaine said, diplomacy that isn't blowing smoke is refreshing. It is. It is. And some people just have that genuine knack for it. Now, we all have a good time here because we're all relatively on the same page. Nico, you're learning a lot, but I'm learning a lot too as I go through this. Blaine obviously has his Christianity set in place. Same thing with Nernaeth, very educated as well. And we have other folks who come in and talk, and that's great. And that's great. And we have a lot of fun because we're all kind of talking, kind of in the sphere of, just buddies chilling out, just exchanging ideas. And I'm just leading it because I'm the one with the camera on. But when you're talking about somebody who doesn't believe, it's a little bit different, especially when they've got a chip on their shoulder about something. And people who have different addictions or different sins that they don't want to admit are actually sinful. It gets really dicey as far as carrying on a conversation. So, and that's what I mean. It was talk. I was in one of those the past couple days with Beth Moore, with some friend or fan of Beth Moore, who is part of this egalitarian movement. Women need to be teaching. Women need to be up there preaching the word in front of all this other stuff. And they think it's okay, and they think that everybody's out to get them, and it's not that we're out to get you. We just want you to stop teaching what you're teaching because it's wrong. Stop it. But this person's like, they're focusing on one aspect of what Christ taught when there's so much more to it. So you think that recent Twitter purchase will have any meaningful impact on the Christians on Twitter? Might get a little spicier on there. I already saw a couple of people going, pedophilia is wrong. Pedophiles are not Christians. Homosexuality is not Christianity. There's going to be some harsher tones, I think, because of it. What the real interest is going to be is when things like Easter rolls around. Because remember, Easter and Passover happen at the same time. When Easter rolls around, there is a lot of conflict between the Jewish faith and the Christian faith. And from my personal aspect, from my own experiences, I've been attacked for and labeled an anti-Semite just by repeating what's in the Bible, and not in a hateful way or anything, and just saying, like, look, this is something that happened, a couple thousand years ago. I don't hold anybody directly responsible for that today. And not only that, much of early Christianity is derived out of both pagans and Jews. Those were the early Christians, for the most part. The disciples, Jesus, the Messiah, are all brought up Jewish. Paul, Jewish. But they're so sensitive to it. Any mention of it, and the next thing you know is it's like, you're attacking me. That you're using this to call for violence. I'm not calling for violence for anything. What are you talking about? And you learn that it's an easy, quick trope that they used because they're trying to win an argument, and they're trying to use a victim mentality for it, which is not helpful. It's not helpful for any type of discourse. And people get banned for engaging in those arguments. So you have to be very careful. I don't know how careful you'll have to be going forward. So it'll be very interesting to see how that lands. The best and worst thing I hear is, you're a Christian. always a clinch until they follow up with some sort of, I feel like I can actually talk to you. Yeah, it's the stereotype is we're all stuck up and we're all judgmental. And that's certainly true in some cases. There's plenty of churches out there with a poor culture where it's more of a social club than it is actually a place for people to gather and worship together. But there's so many Christians. So many Christians are very real and on the level. And even and especially fundamental. Like I consider myself largely fundamental. I believe that the Bible teaches fundamental truths. It is inerrant, and that we need to follow it as closely as possible in our lives. Understand that we're going to fall short and screw up, but at the same time, when making a decision on how we're going to run our church and how we're going to run our households and how we're going to run ourselves, we try to err on the side of caution and what we know will be in favor of what God wants, instead of saying, well, my feelings or society says, or I don't want to be labeled a blah, blah, blah. Then you really do end up acting like you either end up not being a Christian anymore, or you end up being very fake. Oh yeah, it wasn't a while we got some notice on his profile or Discord for being a Christian. Yeah, I thought that was a meme that he shared. I think that was a meme. I thought that was hilarious too. Let me see if I can find it. Nico, why are you sharing creepy faces on here? Daggone Discord. Yeah, I think that's a meme. So that's where we're at. I've got a busy weekend ahead of me. Having a get together, having our usual weekend get together. I've got to be on the roof, blowing leaves off the roof, cleaning it up. I got to start taking down a pool. Yeah, I've got an above ground pool that I'm disassembling. It's one of the old, more traditional fiberglass and plastic above ground pools. That's 32, 36 feet across in a circle. I got to start disassembling that. I'm going to put something else up. Put a more manageable pool system up, and see where we go from there. But I'm not going to be doing that until spring, maybe next year. We'll see. So I got a busy weekend ahead of me. Hopefully, you guys will all have a very good weekend. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm getting ready to close this stream. So, but Halloween's approaching. There will not be a Monday stream because I will be doing trunk or treat, and so I'll be getting fat on candy, and there we go. So everybody, I want you to so Nico, Blaine, Nernath, Pop Culture Mechanic, thank you for joining the stream again. I know this is like your second time popping in. Pretty cool. Let's see, that might be the whole group tonight. Oh, and the porn bot that got banned. I hope you all have a very safe and productive weekend in whatever format, except for you, porn bot. I hope you're destroyed. And with that said, everybody have a very good night, and God bless. Thanks, Pop Culture Mechanic.